branch of service did you serve in?
I was in Vietnam from 67 to 68, and I was in the Navy then. Then I was in Vietnam 71 to 72. I was in the Army then.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what was your military occupation, designation, specialty?
In the Army, it's classified as 61B watercraft operator. And in the Navy, I was a boat operator, and I drove very small assault boats for the Navy.
You said
Yeah.
Saul?
Assault.
Salt boats.
Yeah.
Okay. What units, divisions did you serve with?
When I was in the Navy, I was in Riveron 5. That's River Squadron 5. And the unit I was in Water Company 533, PBR Company 533. And then when I was in the Army, I was in 97th Heavy Boat. Then I was in 122 Security Company. Then I was in 105 Transportation Company.
Wow. All right. Where were the locations of your service? And break them up into the two different times that you were there.
When I was in the Navy, I was in the Mekong Delta. And my first couple of months, I was south of Saigon in an area they call the Rung Sat Special Zone. And we covered, they call it the Saigon River, but the Vietnamese word for it is Long Tao. And we kept that shipping lane open, you know. And then I moved from there, I went up north, almost on the Cambodian border. I was on a river there for about 40 days, right? And then we came back down, they loaded us up and came back down. And I was in Mito then. That's a city on the Mekong. And I did my rest of the time there. And then when I was in the Army, I was in Cam Ranh Bay.
Okay.
Yes, you know. So I stayed there for 10 months, you know. But I didn't work really in Cam Ranh Bay. I worked for the Air Force. And there was a village that they would shoot mortars over the village. So we went out in the village, it was 4 of us, and we went out to spot the rounds for the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What are some of your memories that you have of Vietnam? What?
You know, I have fond memories. I have bad memories, you know. And I guess what bothers me mostly, I still think about a lot. I think about people crying a lot, and that used to irritate me, you know. But I guess anybody would cry if you losing your home and everything, but it just used to irritate me because the people would come around me crying a lot, you know, and that bothered me because I didn't want to see nobody crying. I didn't have time to hear people crying.
Right.
So that kind of bothers me. Yeah.
Any other memories? Did you have much interaction with people?
Yes, I had a lot. I had a whole lot, you know, because we stayed out on the rivers, and we went up all kind of canals and searching out things and stuff. So my interaction was with the Vietnamese people daily. Yes.
Okay. And your thoughts on them? I mean, just regular people, or?
Yeah. Now that I'm not there, I have a clear understanding of things, you know. And just like I said, it irritates me when they used to be crying and begging, but now I got a clear picture, you know,
Right.
you know, of what we were doing to them, you know.
Did you
Yeah.
have any contact with the South Vietnamese Army?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Every day when we went out, we would have either one of the army soldiers, or like we used to call them white mice, you know. but they were QCs. That means Quonset police.
Okay.
Yeah, so like we would have to take one of them with us every day because they would be interpreters. Yeah, and whatever mission we were on, we had to have an interpreter because we would come in contact with them. Although I went to Vietnamese language school, but that's a whole different dialect than from what you were taught.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were there 2 different time periods. Any striking differences? I mean, obviously you were in 2 different locations too, but anything that you noticed that was strikingly
Oh, yeah.
different from the earlier time to the later time?
Yes,
Or
ma'am.
vice versa?
Yes, ma'am. Even the first time when when I was there, and my first station there, like I say, it was south of Saigon, and we didn't have a base. We like slept in these big tents, you know. So we would take our weapons to bed with us and stuff. Everywhere we went, we carried them and stuff, you know. And this was in the 60s. But when I went back in 71, no, it was much different, you know. It was much more stricter, and the weapons stayed locked up all the time, and they were really safeguarded and stuff. So I mean, it was a lot different, you know.
If you were to return to Vietnam, what kind of questions would you have, or would you want to ask the Vietnamese people, whether it be the citizens, the soldiers, the enemy that you fought against? What would some of those questions be?
I guess I would like to know how do they feel about us, you know, and how are they generally getting along in life now, since there's a lot of Chinese and Russians there and everything. And do they feel as though that we won, or we let them down, or we just moved out and left them there, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Did you had contact with the enemy? While
I have came in contact with them, you know.
okay.
Yeah, and we used to look for them a lot. We used to get intelligence that they would have a operative working in a certain area, and we would look for them and stuff. So we would do things like that, you know. Yeah.
Are there locations that you would want to visit if given the chance to go back to Vietnam? Would you want to go back to that river and go back up?
Yeah. Yes. Yes, I would like to go back up and travel on some of them rivers and stop at some of those hamlets, and you know, and just look around and see, you know. It was a lot of sights that they shot at us from, so you know.
How about Cameron Bay? Was that pretty, or was it just another?
Cameron Bay, when I was there, it was pretty well taken care of, you know. And I like here now, it's a Russian port, basically, you know, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anything else you'd like to mention or tell me? I mean, I'm interested. I got another question. So you served in the Navy.
Yes, ma'am.
And then you went back, and did you enlist in the Army then?
Yeah, I read up in the Army, yeah.
You retired in the Navy, or?
My first 2 years in the Navy, I was on an aircraft carrier.
Okay.
And when I got off there, I went to Vietnam. But prior to going to Vietnam, I went through different schools and stuff like that. Like I said, I went to language school, and I went to communist indoctrination school. Then I went through survival schools and stuff like that. And the Navy was instituting a brand new concept, and they were partnering up with the Army. So that's why the Navy had so many different types of watercraft, you know. like swift boats and stuff like that. So, and they like used them because the Army didn't have no way of really tracking them down on those rivers and things like that.
Right.
Although the Army had water units, but the Army didn't employ the concept that the Navy did. Yeah, yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah,
So you made the switch, and they were able to utilize you, and
yeah. So when I joined the Army, I guess they saw what I was doing the first time, and they sent me back.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Were you ever injured while you were overseas?
No, no.
Okay.
I don't know why, but no.
That's great. That's good. That's
Yeah.
good.
My like first love has always been the Army. That was my first love, and that's what I always wanted to do. So one day, me and my cousin, we were just messing around, and he says, "Yeah, let's go in here and sign up." And we was going past these recruiters, and the Navy was the first one, and I said, "Okay." And I was 17 years old.
Wow.
And so we went in there and took the test, and the guy called us back, and we went back. And when we went back, he says, "Oh, I was just playing. I don't want to go." So I says, "No, I'm not going to back out. I didn't came this far." So I enlisted for 4 years. Yeah, 4 years. I stayed out from 68 to 71, something like 3 years. Yeah. It was always in my mind that I hadn't fulfilled what I really wanted to do, you know. And then I got married, and my wife, she was with child. And I says, "Well, let me go back and it'd be kind of better for us." But that was the push, but my real incentive was that that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to be a soldier.
And then knowing that they would send you back to Vietnam?
And I didn't think that was going to happen.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
It's like, I already did that, check.
Yeah.
They didn't accept that.
Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen, but so I accepted it, and I didn't tell my wife where I was going. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. I didn't tell her I left, and I called back.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
really?
because I didn't want to hear her getting mad and crying and stuff. I didn't want to hear her saying why.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you came back from Vietnam, were you stationed in different parts of the world, or were you stationed here?
I was stationed in Panama for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was down in Panama. I was stationed there for 3 years. And my family was with me. My tour in Panama, actually, they were like looking overhead at there was going to be some kind of trouble in Panama, which eventually turned out to be.
Right.
So they had different types of units, and by me being in a boat unit, that's what they wanted, right? So they packed us up. They packed us equipment up, wives and children. Yeah, and they moved our whole unit to Panama.
So what years were that?
I stayed in Panama from 76 to 79.
I know Sergeant Morris was in Panama.
Yeah, I was in Panama from 76 to 79.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I was in combat support, And they had different combat support units. They had a trucking unit, a helicopter unit, an artillery unit, but they needed a boat unit to like secure the waterways in the Panama Canal. So that's why they packed us up and sent us there, you know. And Panama was quite interesting. Yes, and then I got out after that, you know.
To go back to, you said assault boat.
Uh-huh.
What did you do on that boat? I mean, were you driving it? Were you
I
planning? I mean,
I
how
drove
many
it.
people were on it?
Four of us.
Four.
Four of
Really?
us. Yes,
Oh
four.
my God.
It
So
wasn't.
that's small.
Yeah, it was very small. It was very small, about as long as a car. It's just 10 feet.
Oh.
It
Did
just
you sleep on this thing too?
lay down on the deck on the floor. There's one guy sitting up front, the guy driving, then another guy standing there, and the guy on the gun in the back. Yeah.
That's, you were really like an easy target.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm just thinking this is a really, because swift boats are bigger than that.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, swift boats are much. We was, I think, 10 by 30. Yeah, and it's 30 feet this way. It's not. Yeah. Actually, I'm gonna say from here to that door, maybe a little bit shorter. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah. And we had a lot of firepower, and we were very fast. And we worked with a lot of we worked with a lot of SEAL teams. We worked with SEAL teams. We worked with the Army recon teams and stuff like that. Yeah, so we were we did a lot of reconning work, putting them in insertion and extraction. We did a lot of that, you know. You know.
How long would you be out on a mission? I mean,
As long as it took, but our regular mission was like all night or like all day. We worked 6 days and 6 nights, then a day off. Yeah. Uh-huh.
did you travel in groups of these salt boats, or it's just you?
Just
solo?
2 boats.
2 boats?
Yeah, yeah. The lead boat and the cover boat. So it was just 2 boats always, you know. But we had a 10-boat squadron, you know.
Okay.
But you was always in twos because, like, you went different places, you know.
So was everybody on the boat pretty much trained to do everything on the boat? Because
Just about. But you had a engineer, quite naturally for the engines, and you had a gunner's mate, quite naturally for their guns, and you had a deckhand, you know. And that's what I was, a deckhand, seaman, but I knew how to do everything else.
yeah, I didn't say it was such a small crew. You have
Yeah,
to.
yeah,
If someone gets injured, or
yeah.
you can't rely on. He was the only one who knew how to do
Yes.
that. So
Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh.
wow.
Yeah. Yes,
How many missions did you go on? It was rough.
I think about in 18 months, I think it was 315, something like that, in our 18-month period.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I've been in 26 firefights.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
So between the 2 tours, was there one that you enjoyed more than the other? Enjoy is a weird word to use, but which one?
Well,
They seem to be so different.
yeah. I say the second time, it was less hectic for me. But then when I went to work for the Air Force, it was kind of like what I was doing before, you know, you know, and I moved away from the base period, and we were more or less on our own. It was four of us, you know, and the other two guys, well, they wanted to go back and forth, back to the base, you know, but I just didn't go back much. And I stayed in the village, and I lived with the Vietnamese people, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, so
Wow. All right.
they was quite surprised that I would speak to them in Vietnamese. You know, say if I was asking them where they're going, I would say "Com đi," you know. If they was going to work, they'd say "Com đi làm," you know. And I would ask them where at, you know. If I didn't believe them, I would say Sao is Mr. You lie. If you're talking to a woman, it's Ko. You say Ko Sao. You know. If she's married, you say Ba Sao. You know. So they would kind of look at me. You know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn a few words. It's a difficult language.
Yeah.
All the different tones and
Yeah. Yeah. And see, if you hear them talking on TV or in person, if you notice that their voice rises and drops and something, well, like that's see, words go up and down, you know, and that's what they're saying, you know. So each word may have a different pitch, you know.
right.
Yeah. And then what was a common thing for most American guys, if you want some water, you know, like you would say the word is D, come D or something like that. But Americans would just say it flatly, and they would interpret it as urine because it's the same.
The same. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
Yeah.
You think they would have two completely different, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it's depending on how you.
Yeah,
The-
how like you make your voice rise.
Right.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, thank you very much for talking to me and,
Yes.
and this interview and for your service.